Brass Web by Matthew Didymus, dedicated to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Chapter 1, Pauline Apocalypse. Chorus, woe unto the city and its inhabitants. Woe unto the city and its inhabitants. Woe unto the city and its inhabitants. And, finally, woe unto us. Dash one studying the maps today after 2 non-consecutive decades of war, famine, pestilence, coastal erosion, have passed through the camp like an angel of death passing through men, like mice through bowstrings, frost eating all the leather horse straps, and the propaganda rings have rippled away the universal truths far out to sea. May find the name pigs and worth more than a passing glance. But it wore a beacon, a bastion, a roof that moves in the shape of the cross, with the teardrop faceless pattern from the ancient kingdom of Kashmir, of Akbar, the great Saturn all around the foreground, spinning and spilling out from the crags of the river. And Paisley was where the ancient mice battled the frogs, near the puddles, both wearing broken, somehow Victorian porcelain in all the books, teacups as armor, and the daintiest teaspoons as lances. And all the while Mr. Snake watched on, nodding in approval. This battle ended with a 3,330-some-odd years truce, which made Mr. Snake eat dust all the while, but the truce has been shook. The people of this modern day may think the ideals of humanity, i.e., love thy neighbor, are nay more than a semblance of ideas, shadows, untenable in the days of yesteryear as they are untenable in today's year. And though the idealism of each century turns to idolatry of nostalgia the next, the kernel remains inside the calcified lump, like the fossilized crab in sandstone, the very same sandstone that were hurled at the archetypal Hercules in all of us. As a matter of strict opinion, the vain strivings that were tied at the notion of nation and the amalgamated lands that lasted through the first 10 years' war, and seemingly everyone swore blood allegiances to, was defeated in the second 10 years' war, which everyone treats as it happened all together, but it took nearly 32 years. There was 8 years, the metric system was imposed worldwide, and no just the old metric system. Those 8 years were out of a 10-month year. And from those nations, a confederacy of horns now reigns, and all who claim to be humankind scattered within the general populace are denizens of ALOG, Air, Land, Ocean Government, or were until it became ALO, Air, Land, and Ocean, Empire, Audible Sign. And those in charge acted like all the world was nostalgic for war, when it really was nostalgic for something untenable. The spirits of the 20th century, 19th, etc., etc., 16th, contingency, thy name is recess, are banished and are now haunting the forests and moors amongst the country folk into a sort of folk religion of those who came from all corners, the East, the Mid-East, the Far East, North Africa, South Africa, East Africa, and West Africa, all stopping at Milford in the path of the confessor St. Mirren, to pick wild mushrooms and pickle beets, be laborers, to set up little corner shops, to teach them school children arithmetic and grammar, to be nurses and doctors, twitching streamers through the starlit skies, became the bulwarks of what electrified and propped up a decaying corpse called the Empire, reanimating it as the Frankenstein's monster, and, well, their descendants, these gentle reminders, remnants, stir about in hill and valley, farmers, salt of the earth, and the newest empire will me enlist them in any regiment, especially Noah's cooks, because they put visions into the porridge and visions in the tea and visions in the meat. So it's really just a blend of spices from East African street food artists, Staff Payne. There are also those that likely descend somewheres from the Scandinavian region, thousands of years ago, most with spotted hitchhikers' thumbs, before all the ice melted and the land rose to the skies, and the seraphs broke from the mirrors of ice, but that was all in the last book, and there is no need to exhaust here all the details. The Scandinavians always thought this land was either different and no bad, or no indifferent and good from their Hamaland. A third, the inhabitants of a great lost island to the east, that, shipwrecked, tried to make the mainland, but finding an island were complacent, and every Sunday they preached about constancy. And then there are the pure painted ones. Aye, you can am if you see 'em. The old languages are nearly gone, wiped out by the fellow whites. The culture was commercialized and then Americanized. Then there wasn't anything left after that. I lads, lads? The clothes are misworn, and the food, well, the food has been gone since 1947 when India went for independence and Paisley got its first start at food from Pakistan, and for the better. The late 1990s saw the first waves of gentrification. This was the backwash of the unnameable years, and, well, it doesn't matter anymore. But it lost the last arkwright on St. Andrew's Cross Street. It did. I used to pop in when I was arriving via Arnold Street. The state of the Catholic Church has been knocked around for quite some time, but the Irish came to save it, and then the Polish, and finally Africans came with the Black Madonna and dug into the good earth deep enough to never be moved. Father Jude of Mary Helper of Christians was instrumental in the hearts of many now living upon the braes. He was remembered for his handsome smile, his large black hands holding the Eucharist as proud as Saint Joseph held the infant Christ, and his singing of O Sacrament, most holy, O Sacrament divine, all praise and all thanksgiving be every moment thine after the consummation of the Eucharist. But they are ungovernable, the wild, godful people, whereas the governable are godless. Know that they don't have many gods, all of them money, and know that the godful people don't ascribe to the order of altruism. All ships pass on the sea. I lads, they just refuse to be captured again. They're free. One has to read up the ancient manuscripts known as the Bible, but the ruler of this world, Mr. Snake, is me God, is furthest from God, is me even the measuring rod, lads, but nonetheless is still ruling over anyone who has me shook him off by looking to the cross or the crescent, symbolically Catholicism and Islam. For these having married the Black Madonna, Queen of Angels, and Crusher of Snakeheads, as the perfect example of thy to God, the Kierkegaardian lead to go about as a hind on the hills, as a witness, an apostle, but blessed even beyond the greatness of Princess Asiya of Egypt, who adopted Moses, for so much more, for she bore the Christ child, and as Jesus said, she was no merely blessed for raising him with her mother's milk, but because she followed God's will. And furthermore, he demonstrated how great a mother she was when he said that she was no merely blessed for being related to him through blood, flesh, and bone, but because she heard his words and did them as the one who came from God. And that he heard her word and did it for she was the woman, the new Eve, given her title at the wedding at Cana. Now the two, the crescent and the cross, are one through the Christ, one through the angels. And the rulers of this age and ages past have confused what these two mountains, Zion and Sinai, truly mean, and how Mr. Snake would attempt to, throughout the station mostly, to undo what Mary has done through her fiat. Oh, how Moses spoke so well, but was understood so poorly by the menfolk. St. Luke has a few words, and the whole Queen of the South rising up where Jesus declares that the Black Madonnas will rise all throughout Africa and throughout the world. The second quarter of the 21st century saw the great wave of migrants after Scotland won its rights to its migration policy. Most came to be with families that had already been started by some great matriarch who had made the journey as a young girl. These sojourning mothers came from Great Mother Africa, the Middle East, Bolton, Hinesley, from all corners wearing paisley shawls as some grand vision that Wasney concocted in Victorian myth, but ancient magic, the powers of creation, endowed by the Father Sky for Mother Earth to be the waterfall, endless creation regenerating through the seasons, the moon and the turtle's shell. Good paisley-shawled mothers know how to cook the traditional cakes on holidays for their paisley pajamaed father's self. Ideas such as traditional love and spirit are relatively taboo in the secular world. Though there is a reference to notions of good and evil by the government/empire, which Scotland now is a client state, only what is eliminated and what stands, as in the material world, is no supposed to contain these words, since they are ideas, and what the imagination of another eliminated word would bend and shape them to mean something material in the mind, heart, and belly of man, as it were, and so existing as the concept, the material concept, but if it can be materially produced. It does have a usefulness to the empire, and so is imagination, and so is immaterial, unworthy to be clothed. Ideas, the loftiest ones as it were banished and naked as a poor Tom's cat. The holidays are no meant to be celebrated, but within some pains the days are remembered. They used to be bank holidays and all, and the churches of various religions still are free to celebrate, but it'd be unlikely that church and state would see some quasi-king slash priest reign, though. Even a lapsed quasi-agnostic with any blood of orthodoxy wouldn't be allowed to serve very high in the empire for a reverse to the reasoning of the old theocracy. Atheists and agnostics could me loyally swear oaths if they did me pledge fealty to the God the government had sanctioned was all right to worship from a purely unfeeling way. ALOG minus 288.8 inch. But under Alo, not a theocracy, it was reversed, so that if you believed in God beyond an unfeeling way, you were thought a candidate for the Lateran Water Tower, part of the Lateran Water Hospital complex, a sort of country estate. The tower was developed off the Lateran Water River, which flowed into the Cartwater River through Hicksley during the reign of George III for the Mad, a sort of landmark to the east of Hawkhead Road. The next sort of landmark were the industrial laundry that sat in the woods of Jenny's Reserve on the west side of the Cart River, where many of the remnants of industry sat. The old iron foundry, that in years past moored ablaze on Seething Lane, by a steep hill road, bedazzling the skyline babies, sat desolate on Desolation roamed by the cart, with many the Desolation angels going from its large smokestack to the spires of St. Mary's Cathedral. The old shawl and pajama mills had all been torn down, save a few which were now offices and flat suites to let. At night spotlights would shine and the shadows of the architecture of the old buildings seemed to be alive, breathing, sighing, seething with the past. The Candlemas had been, though nobody mentioned it, they even the angels, who wandered again from the spires down the road to Harvey's, a little pub down there on Glassville Road there. Some folk indeed patronized both church and pub, but were the ones who rudely talked of it the most. There within communities of the old folk it was known who held on to the old ways, and who patronized what? I. Organized religion had been propagated as a great danger during the first and second virus, though all gathering slash organizations were thought dangerous. Only the dead war religion with any lasting, dignified sense, though simple rain would dissolve their stone martyrs as well. But these days no one would dare have had a cross-oak crescent-shaped tombstone, no in the last 15 years, just maybe a little T or C imprinted. The large windies of Harvey's fogged up from the heat inside and the damp cold outside. Though the fog could be wiped away to allow for a glimpse to look outside, it would close in again with condensation and veil what passed, thus the veil wasn't lifted but kept in place. A call came at the phone, but it was just some bird asking if it was open. Unbeknownst to the tinkling of beer and cider glasses and twinkling of scotch and gin chasers, a wee blur named Ronnie Webb walked past in a blurry coat, leaving behind a dragline of glowing, molten brass. And the angels peeled off their perches and followed him for his mother, had prayed a subach for him. He kept his head down the blurred road. After a few blocks he took the sharp right. He always took corners perpendicularly, which incidentally was south, down along the mossy, flowery, damp, grayish-green stone wall. Behind the wall was residences, cookie-cutter hangs with little red and white stones dumped in front and leveled out for driveways. The kind of hang you'd say to the missus, "That's pretty good, aye?" There were trees that hung over the stone wall, and from time to time Ronnie would duck and weave like a gallant weaver, conscious of any oncoming, or rear-coming, pedestrians, or cyclists, movements, whereas he was a rope, chariot, that is. And the angels knew if he could move up the board, he would be as valuable as, oh say, a rook and a pawn. Eventually, he came to Hawkhead Station and went over the false hill. The train tracks ran under the false hill, and Ronnie liked to time out, so he could either see a train coming or going. His dad told them they went over a bridge that was also built during the reign of George III. Atop the false hill he standed at the platform where the train cars landed, and he looked up to the glorious green graves that surrounded Hicksley. The furthest one had a waterfall his parents had taken him to. The closest was a cemetery, and far beyond the cemetery His grandmother's house was just across the road from the cemetery, but he was going just past it to a corner shop before coming straight back home to his mother's. When he came down off the hill, he crossed over to the side where the cemetery wall split into a tall black steel fence, presumably so people could look in to see the graves as they passed, and no, so the graves could look out, and as one passed one could see inside. Hawkhead Hill, the cemetery hill, though some call the fake hill, Hawkhead Hill, a faux pas for sure, amassed to the east, low and long, long and luxurious green, and fiat lux, though, clear throat, fully encompassed by this perforated wall. Many of the gravestones were from the First and Second World War. They made a new cemetery for WWIAI, but we call it the First 10 Years War now. Forward slash. The boy looked within the damp, mossy gravestones scattered uphill, and throughout there were the damp trees whose branches often were so saturated with pest that they'd split and fall upon the stones. There was the gorse. The cemetery was so large that it had to be maintained by the council, but the lowest parts were continually flooded, and between the floods and moss, ivy, love vine, woodstone, and gravity, the whole graveyard was becoming a grave unto itself. Close to the fence, Ronnie saw a large cross that had been broken off at the base and was laying in two further sections on the ground, half in the water, under a tree branch. He remembered a cross being in his grandmother's, who's beside his great-grandmother as she lay a-dying on the pull-out couch. His great-granny and the cross had the same posture, similar anyways. The cross beside her had the same sort of weaving design inlaid. The name of the stone-based cross couldn't be read, though Ronnie spied off the tops of a few letters. He sometimes thought that was his granny's, since he didn't know where it was exactly. Her funeral was locked in his memory due to severe knee pain he had the entire time. But he reverenced this broken stone like it was hers. He felt sad it was broke. He felt sad all day because a dream he had about his great-grandmother. His great-grandmother died in her nightgown, and although she was still in her nightgown, she was standing alive in his dream as the sun in the day, arms out like the cross. Driven forth from this pensive moment of recollection, Ronnie kept in the road. A pool of grass remained where he had stopped. He had 2 pounds in his pocket, but was mostly sent out for fresh air. He had stayed home sick from school, but was sent by his mother with a shopping list of 2 jacket potatoes, eggs, bread and salt, cooking oil, some other scribbles. Ronnie had made the trip before with his mother, and the shop owner was well known to the family being the uncle of Ronnie's uncle's longtime girlfriend, and for his shop, serving to all in the community. The individual, and basically the community, state, and everything, had ceased by way of Collective Operation Initiative Network, which every PM promised to the denizens that they will work hard to achieve each year. But it's just a carrot to increase the GDP, which artificially inflates the value of the coin, and they act like that's a secret to success. But it's a failure, and it's not a secret. So the geniuses who run finance believe that if the state allows them to work everyone to death, they'll make some to a lot of money, and it will unburden the state. And if they make everyone miserable by collecting and withholding basic goods, then they'll be able to hoard those goods. Which I guess is Machiavellian, but it's just cartoonishly stupid. And they're serious about it, serious to the point that think it's a mystery, like coming to God through an Elysian mystery or food poisoning. But even the Mediterranean people thought to only do that once and have the experience. You'll have endless fun doing it. Endless poison? That just leads to mischief, and it's just asinine. But it's like some sort of religion to them, a mischievous, asinine, poisonous religion of money. The counter-argument, which isn't allowed, except as a mischaracterized concept to explain the affirmation of the coin, which became the empire's